Making Regalia is made possible in part by Bernina of Oklahoma City, providers of quality precision sewing machines. And by War Child Society, designers of native apparel, t-shirts, decals, and more. And by generous contributions from viewers like you.
Welcome back to another great episode here on Making Regalia with me, Juaquin Lone Lodge, here in Concho, USA, home of the Southern Cheyenne, Southern Arapaho tribes. Today I'm going to be working on some men's fancy dance sticks. You know, like a lot of people have different names for them, you know, whip sticks, Indian nunchucks, you know, money makers, whatever you want to call it. Today I'm going to show you how I do my style of set. Now, if you look in the back, I just finished a brand new set of bustles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make these dance sticks to match them. This is kind of my style of way, and actually these are my new personal ones. So, you know, it took me a little bit of time, you know, a long time actually to do it since I work 8 to 5. But, you know, I put the effort into it and I finally finished them. And the only thing I got to do now is just finish up these sticks just to match. But today I'm going to tell you a little bit of the story about how they came about and, you know, kind of show you how to construct them. What we're going to talk about is a little bit of the history of the dance stick. You know, this dance stick, it has some of its origins, and some of the stories I heard are, you know, like kind of our traditional ways. This dance stick used to come about when the warriors, you know, the men of the tribe used to ride horses. And it was actually the piece that they used to whip the horses to make them go faster. Used to use different things, you know, like, you know, horsehair, like what we have here, and, you know, tie it onto the stick and, you know, kind of give them a little, like, you know, kick so they actually run faster. Since then, it's evolved into our power ways. You know, it was kind of like a token to dance with. And now the men's fancy, we kind of use 2 of them. You know, the very beginning sticks weren't really that elaborate. You know, they might have had a little bit of horsehair, maybe a little bit of decorations now. Today we have all styles of sticks. You know, you have ones still, you know, adorning like horsehair, but you also have ones that have flag tape. You know, you have hackles on them now. And sometimes, you know, you add tape to them, or I've even seen, you know, if you really get creative, I've even seen fully beaded ones. You know, those are sought after ones, and I wish I had the ability to actually do beadwork on sticks, but that is one style I haven't actually mastered yet. You know, kudos to all the people out there that can actually do gourd stitch. I wish I could do it. But I'm going to show you a little bit of my style. I use tape, and, you know, I've told you guys on my past shows, my secret to getting like really good tape is actually go to the sign stores. That way you can get the premier, you know, vinyl tape, and they also have a lot of different colors. You know, they have your fluorescents to your bright to your metallics. You know, and usually when you go in there, just, you know, talk to them, be like, hey, you know, I'm doing like little projects here and there, and, you know, most of the time they'll just give you the scraps that they don't use anymore. And if you look on the stick over here, I've kind of used a little bit of color. I kind of did this real quick because I'm kind of getting ready for a powwow at the moment. I usually go real in depth on my tape jobs, but, you know, I just did something like real plain and simple. I did a little bit of triangular work in here and some multicolors and stuff like that with interchanging colors. But you see, like, all this tape here, I got majority of it all from like a sign store. But, you know, it's not beadwork, but at least I can still throw in some designs. But if you look from the back of the bustles here, I have the exact same collaborating colors. So that way everything correlates back and forth. Here what we did is I did a little eyelet on to this dowel rod. This dowel rod is, you know, kind of like the style I like to use for my dance stick. And, you know, like different fancy dancers out there, and you in general, you know, you'll like your different weights and your different lengths and stuff. This one's just a little bit more comfortable for me, and this is kind of what I'm kind of used to. So the length here, and this is kind of the width and stuff. So I've been dancing with this kind of style stick for years. You know, too, you'll have different preferences. But all I did was attach an eyelet here, like a metal eyelet. And when I did that, I went halfway in and I pulled the eyelet out and I put my tacky glue. My tacky glue here, this bottle I've had for years, I just keep reloading it over and over. That's why it kind of looks all busted up. But what I'll do is I'll put a little tacky glue and get it real saturated, and I'll go all the way till it finally locks, and then I'll just let it sit for a couple hours. Once it's in there, it's permanently in there, and I don't really have to worry about it. After that, I attached, like some shoestrings here, adorned it with some beads and stuff, and kind of melted like the shoestring together so it kind of gives it a firm hold. At the bottom here, this is where I'm going to put my extension. Now, if you see me do extensions before, I'm doing the exact same thing as I did on the bustles. I'm going to do a 6-inch extension with some zip ties, and then I'm going to do my hackle work and also attach, since I'm doing this style to match this set, I'm actually going to work with horsehair. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of how I work with horsehair.
The Lakota Sewing Circle is based in Rapid City, South Dakota. The circle is comprised mostly of girls and women, but a few men participate as well. The purpose of the circle is to give any person the opportunity to learn how to sew or give seasoned sewers a place to work on projects, the company of fellow sewers. Through the leadership of Lisa Ironcloud, the Lakota Sewing Circle is introducing the art to young tribal members. Most regular members are fluent Lakota speakers and are currently working together to teach the group how to speak Lakota while they sew. The group meets every other Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Oyate Community Center. Making Regalia applauds the fine work of the Lakota Sewing Circle, bringing their community together with language and sewing.
So here what we have here is horsehair. Of course, everyone asks me, where do you get your horsehair from? I always say horses, but I don't know, this is kind of my joke for the time. But but this is how it comes when you order it. I got this from I think an Indian store. This is kind of expensive, but I always go for the kind of the longer stuff. But I went with all white. Now, working with this stuff, I'm going to let you know this stuff gets everywhere. I mean, I don't really know any simpler way or any fail-to tactics to actually keeping this stuff together. This stuff will go all over your floor. And right now, it looks pretty inert because everything is tied together, all the bundles and whatnot. But as soon as you start cutting these little things, this stuff goes everywhere. I'm going to teach you a little trick that I kind of picked up on how to work with it to keep all your horsehair together. But just keep in mind, once you start working with this, you're going to have to pick it up, and I wouldn't vacuum it because it's going to kind of mess up your vacuum machine. But just remember, once you open it, it's going to go everywhere. So what I like to do is once I open this up, it's just what I'll do is whenever I want to work with it, I'll take a pinch of horsehair like I did with these bustles, and what I'll do is I'll coat it with my tacky glue. And then that way I'll come out with a little bundle. Now if you see here, I've got this one already kind of done, and this is kind of a pinch of the horsehair. And what I've already done is I've already saturated with the glue. The glue actually holds all the horsehair together and keeps it straight up in the bundle. And usually when I'm working with the bustles and stuff, I'll do I'll wet one and I'll set it to the side, let it harden, and I'll wet another one, and then I'll come back to them. I'll let them sit for a while. That way, once the glue starts to sit and harden, it's easier to work with. Now, if you see, it doesn't come apart and the hair is all stuck together. This is ideal so when you actually do work with it. So that's my little trick on actually how to work with horsehair. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an extension to just like how I did the bustles. And of course, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working with our famous zip ties. These are awesome because what I really like about these, instead of working with dowel rods or shish kebab sticks, is you have the flexibility of it bending. Most of the time with, if you use shish kebab sticks, if something were to happen to the feather, the spike, it bends, and it'll break. That way you lose hackles, you could lose your horsehair. Then, you have to start all over. This one gives a little bit of flexibility, so even if it does bend, it's not going to hurt it. It's not going to snap it anyway. Usually what I'd like to do on these, if I'm doing flag tape like I did from the last shows, what I like to do is I like to cinch it and I make a hoop. And when I make this hoop, that way I can change out the flag tape to whatever color I want. One weekend I can go one style, I can go one color, or if they get dirty, I can change them out. This hoop will always be there. And what I'll do is I'll attach it here, and then I'll add all my colors and stuff like that and use that just for the flag tape. But since I'm working with horsehair, I can't really put this in here and actually hold it or change it out. But since I'm only going to do flag tape on this, I'm just going to go cinch it all the way to the bottom. And then from there, I'm going to cut this out 6 inches. 6 inches is good because I'm working with 3 different colors, which gives me, 2 inches in between colors. That way, all my colors are separated, and you can actually see the vibrant of every color. I do that because I don't like to have my colors all bunched up and actually have it look like one blob of hackles. I've seen that before, and this is like a certain way that you can actually spread your colors out and actually see all the vibrant colors. Because, if you put a lot of money into this stuff, you don't want to just blob it all together. You kind of want to expand it and make sure all the colors are seen. So from what I'm going to do, it's just going to take my zip tie here. I'm going to mark it at 6 inches right from the knot, and just going to take this and cut. Got it. And if you look directly 6 inches, got a knot at the bottom. This will actually hold it, for my first row of hackles, to hold it in place. The other thing is I like to do is I like to wrap it, every 2 inches with tape. That way, because this is kind of smooth surface, you don't want the hackle sliding down, but the tape will hold it so it's not going to slide down all the way. So, got my super bright, super fluorescent duct tape. I like to use duct tape instead of electric tape because duct tape usually sticks in the holes a little bit better. And what I'm going to do, can't rush perfection. Okay, so I got my little strip of tape. I'm just going to measure, and you don't have to be precise as me. Sometimes it's just, this is kind of my OCD kicking in and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do, let's see, I can go halfway, about there. And I'm just going to make a little bundle. And like I said, I'm only doing this that way, the hackles don't slide down. Because, this is kind of a smooth surface, and then once I start taping it, it'll slide down. And, there's another way you can do this. Once you do if you do a thread, you can go all the way up here with your twine, and that'll give it a stability to actually not to move and back and forth. Okay, so I want a really good seat on there, that way it doesn't move back and forth. And I'm gonna make another one. All right. And bam. Okay, so there we go. We got two little buffers to hold the hackles in place for all our lines and stuff. Not doing one down here because we've already got this knot. And the first thing to do, I'm going to attach my horsehair. And the easiest way to do that is, since it's already glued and whatnot. Now, you can always buy this at Walmart. This is your twine. They use this, I think, for crochet. I've never crocheted in my life, but I've bought 100 of these little bins. Okay, so all I'm going to do is take it like so, and I got to remove my watch. I can't actually do this with a watch on. It kind of gets in the way. So all I'm going to do is place it here, put a little excess right here so I can tie off. And there's kind of a certain way you'll get to know how to do this after a while. If you see, I'm just going around it and around, and I'm keeping really tight tension, because once you start swinging these, you can be swinging these 100 miles an hour. You want it to at least endure. You don't want it flying off. You don't want your hackles all over the place. And then all I'm doing is tying a knot. No bow knots or anything like that, because this is permanent. This is going to stay on there for life, kid. Okay, so there. And what I like to do here, since I already have it in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cement it with the tacky glue. This will keep the hold there and hold it in place. Okay. Now you know you need more tacky glue when you got to shake it to get all the glue out. Come on. Okay. There. And there. Now you see it's pretty wet, but once it hardens, it's going to cement on there, and then, that'll give it a pretty firm hold. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my hackles all the way up. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to the end of here onto the dance stick. That way, everything is going to be attached all together. So, kind of the same way how I attach the horsehair, I'm just going to use this on here. Now, if you see I made a knot on here, this will give it a hold. And then when I do my thread work, like the same kind of twine work, it'll hold it and then it'll cinch it. So when you have your centrifugal force, it's not going to actually fly off. So I've seen dancers have dance sticks, and all of a sudden, they're swinging them around and really getting into the song. Next thing you know, it flies off, and then they try to say that's part of their move. So you don't want your dance sticks to fall apart mid-contest. So this is one way to do it. Now you want to keep a really tight tension on here. Very, very tight. And keep going, keep going. Keep going. Okay. It's pretty tight. And no bow knots, straight up knots on this one. Okay. There. And I see it's pretty secure, and once again I'm going to cement this in with some tacky glue. I like tacky glue better than Elmer's glue because it's cheaper, and it just actually, funny thing is it actually seems to work better than Elmer's glue. Plus, if you use super glue, you always have to use super glue remover and always gluing your fingers together. All right. So now we're almost to the point where now all we got to do is attach our hackles. So what I'm going to do is, some people like to count their spikes out, their hackles out. Me, I just like to get a good feel for them. And I'm going to make these a little thick. So what I do is I just rip them off, keep the string on them. Some people do, some people don't. This is my own style. It's just, this is how I do it. And all I'm going to do is wrap these around. Now, remember, you want to go where the hackles goes outward. You don't want to bend them in, because if you bend them in, they're just going to bow in. And see how all the hackles are coming out? That's kind of the style that you want to go with. So from there, I'm just pinching it. I'm holding it with one hand. Got my thread, and I'm going to wrap it. And I'm really keeping a tight tension on here. That way, because that was the other thing. You don't want to hit something, or when you're swinging anything, you don't want all your hackles go all over the place. Okay. Pretty decent. Okay, and tie another knot. That one's good. There. So I'm just going to leave that sideways. That way I can use it again. And there's one. Now I'm going to use the other color. Okay. Now I'm just going to place this right where that orange spot's at. That way it holds it up and it doesn't allow it to slide down. And if you can feel it, you can kind of feel it off center. And then there. Once again, I'm going to use a lot of tension on here. As tight as I can get it. Okay. Now, if you notice, I don't really go all the way around like the white. You know, I don't, almost like if you were sewing, you don't do an embroider stitch. You know, it's like I just get a lot of revolutions around the hackles to hold it down. But this next one, since it's going to be on the outside, you'll actually see like the color of my thread. And I'm going to change it up to match the bustles. I'm going to do more revolutions around these hackles to hold it all in place. Kind of give it a little bit more decorative look. Okay. Now, if you look, I'm going to attach it right where that orange part is and right where we attached it to the shoestring. All I'm going to do is wrap it around. I'm going to hide the shoestring all together. So I'm going to become one object all together. You just kind of want to place your hackles where you need be. And voila, as they say in France. I'm going to use my red thread this time, my red twine. And I'm going to keep a really, really tight tension on here. And you know, when you start tying bustles, spikes and stuff, you're going to find your own form, I guess you would say, on how to do this. You know, I've been doing this for years, and it kind of got a natural form to it. Just going to wrap it until it's all finished up. And now we have one side of the stick. We still got to do 3 more, and then we got some dance sticks ready to powwow. There. One last tacky glue. You want to saturate it really good. And sometimes I like to glue like the tops of the hackles. Thank you, friends. We are here in Oklahoma, Indian Nations base here in Concho, Oklahoma, and I'm proud to showcase this man that I've actually looked up to most of my life in the fancy dance powwow world. This is Joe Boyney. Aho, Joe, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
You know,
Glad to be here.
I've looked up to you over the years, you know, growing up, always watching your style. You know, you've always been one of my heroes as far as men's fancy dance. Today we're going to talk about, you know, kind of the style that you do as far as men's fancy bustle work. I see a set. You made this set right here, huh?
Yes, this set belongs to my grandson, Jaden Columbus. About 2 years ago, he expressed a desire to start dancing. And so we kind of hustled around, his grandmother, Shelley, and myself, and his mom hustled around and put together an outfit for him. And so this is his own personal outfit. So
now I see these colors as yellow and black, and knowing you, you know, growing up through the years, this is kind of an iconic color for you. You know, these are your colors. Did you hand down these colors to him?
Yes, I did. Whenever I began this set, I wanted someone to continue with the yellow and black. To the Kiowa people, yellow and black represents a war trail, and so they have specific meanings, just like all the colors do.
Yeah.
For us Indian people, and so wanted him just to carry it on.
That's good.
So I'm going to pick it up myself here in a little bit.
All right. All right. You know, like I said, I've always watched you, you know, like growing up, and always saw your style of bustle work. Now, this is a kid set. About how many spikes do you have on this kid set?
On the kid set, we put 2 more on the bottom than on the top bustle. So I think this particular set has 36 on the bottom and 34 on the top. And that way we can, we don't have to load it down with so many hackle feathers.
Yeah.
You know, if we use less spikes and we really got to load it down, then it makes it extra heavy for the kids.
Gotcha.
So.
And I also see that, you know, of course you went with horsehair. Now, how did you tie that onto like your extension?
Okay, what I did with the horsehair is that I put them in individual bundles. I divided up all the horsehair into individual bundles. There's 70 individual bundles. I tied them off with thread, and then as I put them on each spike, I glued the horsehair down just a little bit with some Elmer's construction adhesive, and that secures them real well.
Right. And knowing, you know how to do this because I've seen you like battle like so many years. I've watched this guy grow up. Many years at Red Earth Powell. The World Championships and the spotlights and stuff. This guy is, someone I truly looked up to and stole a couple of moves from. Like I can say that. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's some like moves I've kind of like stole from you here and there. But I'm glad. I'm so proud. Just to have you on the show. It's awesome. Just to have you here. You're a legend in your own right. Just thankful for having coming on the show.
Thank you. Listen, I appreciate you having the show. I've caught other episodes of your show, and it's really good that you're showing people how this kind of work goes together. A lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of man hours put into these outfits, and I appreciate you doing that for us. So thank you.
I appreciate that. What I just want to showcase is hopefully, it helps people out that, gives them the ability to dance and gives them that gift to travel and see things that I probably would have never saw without dance, So once again, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
For coming on the show. I hope.
My pleasure.
Well, we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Joe Bointy. He is one of the legends that I've always looked up to all my life. I actually looked him up, when I was growing up and kind of stole some of his moves out there. I want to thank Joe for coming on the show. Thanks for the opportunity. Come back here, finish up our dance sticks, attach the horsehair and, like our extension and all our hackles and then tied it onto here. So these things are ready to battle. Our money makers, our Indian nunchucks, these things are ready to go. Any Ninja Turtle will be proud to have these set. And I do advise, you might want to work these out, try them out, at home before you take them to the powwow, because that way, you get all the loose hackles. You don't want to just go out straight to grand entry and swing these around, and all of a sudden all these hackles fly off. So, there might be a couple loose ones here and there, so just kind of work them out, swing around before you actually hit the powwow trail. So once again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank for our sponsors, and FNX First Nations Experience out of San Bernardino, California for rebroadcasting this. Once again, powwows.com. Thanks for uploading a lot of our videos and stuff, and all the viewers out there. Appreciate all the views that we have, and we're gonna have more shows here coming up to you. So please stay tuned. And once again, ha ho, Hechina Bethan. For all the people out there, see you out there soon.
Making Regalia is made possible in part by Bernina of Oklahoma City, providers of quality precision sewing machines, and by War Child Society, designers of native apparel, t-shirts, decals, and more, and by generous contributions from viewers like you. Making Regalia Season 2, Episode 2.
Today we were at, dang it, I almost had it. I almost forgot the name of the powwow. Once again, we got Willow Abrahamson all the way from Fort Hall, Idaho. Willow Abraham. VI isn't our shot.
All right. Don't look at him. Don't look
at him. Right. Got warrants. I've got another special guest straight from all the way from. That's doing good.